All right, Algebra 1B students, welcome to part 3 of lesson 11, 6 on inverse variation. We are going to be graphing inverse variation equations today and seeing what those look like. They all look very different than many of the equations we have seen, but the good news is they all look very, very much the same. Okay? We're going to do this by making a table of values and plotting those points and then connecting them in a smooth curve. So these will not be straight line graphs. They are going to be curved graphs. We're going to start right away with an example here. The graph of this indirect or inverse variation equation. Okay, inverse variation. The graph here is y equals 8 over x. Y equals 8 over x, which also means, obviously, y times x equals 8. Okay? Now, I'm going to make a table of values, and the numbers that I'm going to put in for x are numbers that I believe I can divide 8 by very easily. I need to pick a bunch in the negative and a bunch in the positive. So, as you can see, I've chosen, or your book has chosen, -8, -4, -2, -1, because I can divide 8 by those at all times. And then 1, 2, 4, and 8. And then it's also very, 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 very important to have 0 in our table so that we can see what happens here. The 0 is always going to be the same every time, no matter what. If I put -8 in for x, and I do 8 divided by -8, 8 divided by -8 is -1. If I put -4 in for x, 8 divided by -4 is -2. If I put -2 in for x, 8 divided by -2 is -4. And then if I put -1 in for x, 8 divided by -1 is a -8. Right, -8. Okay. So I'm going to start by just graphing those points right now. I'm going to go to -8 in my x direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here I am right there in that region. And then I'll go down 1. There's my first point. Okay. If I go over to -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I need to go down 2, so I'm right here. If I go over 2, -2, I need to be down 4. That's right here. And then if I go over -1, I need to be down here all the way at -8. Okay, so you can see this kind of curved shape appearing here. And then we'll see what happens on the other side, on the positive x values. Remember, my function is y equals 8 divided by x. If I put 0 in for x, then 8 divided by 0 is not allowed to happen. I can't divide something by 0. So 8 divided by 0, it's an error if you did that on the calculator. So we call that undefined, which basically means that there is no point there. There is no y value there. My graph does not exist at x equals 0. And you'll see what that looks like in just 1 second. Now, if I continue on and divide 8 by 1, putting 1 in for x, 8 divided by 1 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And 8 divided by 8 is 1. So 8, 4, 2, 1. So let's look at what those points look like on my graph. If I want to graph x equals 1, this one right here, x equals 1, I need to be up at 8 in the y. 1, 8 is right there. If I want to graph x equals 2, over 2, I need to be up 4. There's up 4 right there. Yep. If I go over 4, I need to be up 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, up 2 right there. And if I go over 8, I only need to be up 1 in the x right there. So I've graphed all these points, and it sort of looks like the graphs don't really like each other. They want to be as far away from each other as possible. They want to head in opposite directions. These two pieces, the blue that's in the positive and the black that's in the negative, will never cross. They do not cross. There are two separate pieces of this graph. So every indirect or inverse variation equation has a graph of two different pieces that we'll never touch. And here's what they look like. These inverse variation equations, like I said, never cross the y-axis, because there is no point when x is 0. They also can never get to the x-axis, because no y value can ever get to 0, because dividing 8 by the number will never get you 0, 8 divided by anything. So we end up with these two kind of curved pieces that both bend and never touch either one of my axes, my x or my y-axis. And this is true of all inverse variation or indirect variation equations. Okay? Only the points differ very slightly. Okay? I would like you to try graphing this function, y equals negative 8 divided by x, by doing exactly the same process. Create a table of values, plot the points, connect them. Once again, x equals 0 we will call undefined because we cannot divide that by 0. But pause the video, take a look at that graph, make your table of values, then come on back and I will show you what our graph should look like. Alright, so I'm going to use the same numbers here because I can divide negative 8 easily by all those same numbers. Negative 8, negative 4, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 4, 8. If I do negative 8 divided by negative 8, my y value is 1. Negative divided by negative is positive, which means negative 8 divided by negative 4 is positive 2. Negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4. Negative 8 divided by negative 1 is 8. Once again, here at x equals 0, I do not have a point that is undefined. Negative 8 divided by 1 is negative 8. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Negative 2 is there, and negative 1 right there. So if I were to graph those points, starting, I'll do this one in red, starting here at negative 8 in the x. I used to be at negative 1, now I should be at 1, so now my point is here. If I go to negative 4 in the x, I have to go up 2. If I go to negative 2 in the x, I have to go up 4. And if I go to negative 1 in the x, I have to go up 8. All the way up to there. And then, obviously, 0, there's nothing happening. I know what this side already looks like. It looks like this. And then, if I go to 1 in the x, I'm all the way down here at negative 8. I'm at 2, I'm at negative 4. I'm at 4, I'm at negative 2, and from all the way out of 8, I'm at negative 1. And here's what this side looks like. Okay. So this function, when I have a negative 8 over x, you'll notice that I'm in the top left corner and the bottom right corner. And when I have positive 8 over x, I'm in the top right corner and bottom left corner. That is always true. So that can be a helpful hint. But we're going to graph these inverse or indirect variation equations just by making tables of values. If you have questions about how to do that, please make sure to ask me in class. Otherwise, that's all I have for you tonight. Have a wonderful night.